Welcome to the Fee for Service Dentist Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spirit. Today's episode is really interesting. We have Trey Tepichin. He's from Cloud Dentistry. Cloud Dentistry is going to be a sponsor of this show, this episode. And it is an absolute solution to a problem. You have a problem with staffing, you have a problem with your team and openings and people calling off, and you have gaps, and especially your clinical staff, your hygiene, your dental assistants. And I'm sure they have the same thing for the business administration. They have a platform where you create a profile, the potential employees create a profile, and you can hire them on short-term, long-term, immediate. You can hire them permanent afterwards. It's called Cloud Dentistry. It may be popular in your area because there are some markets, especially in Texas, Denver, Atlanta are some of their biggest markets. It's a 1 in 3 dental offices are in this plan, and to see it in action, it's amazing. Today, Fee for Service Dentist Podcast, as always, is brought to you from Kettenbach Dental. They have a new product called the Salis Fill and Flow. It's a light cured nano hybrid, highly filled at over 80%. High polishability and a very high durability and strength makes it an ideal composite for all your anterior and posterior restorative needs. Easy select shade guide system, can't go wrong. And remember, your costs are lower with Kettenbach, available direct to your office with no middleman costs. To learn more or order, simply contact your local Kettenbach rep or call 877-532-2123. 877-532-2123 or kettenbachdental.us on the web. Enjoy the show, everybody. Like it, subscribe it, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, contact me. Give me some ideas on what you'd like to hear or see from us. Enjoy the show, everybody. Thanks a million.
My name is Drew Burns, and I'm a part of a small group of dentists who believe something crazy. We believe that the standard of care is just not good enough. We demand the best of ourselves and the best for our patients. We believe that the best way? No, the only way to practice dentistry is on our own terms. If you ask the dental consultants or the corporate CEOs, they tell you that what we're doing isn't smart, that fee-for-service dentistry is dead, and that the golden age of dentistry is over. Yet, while others focus on profits first, we focus on the patient first. And yet our offices are some of the most profitable in the entire country because we invest in ourselves and we are doing things right. It's our name on the door and it's our reputation on the line. My name is Drew Burns and I am a fee-for-service dentist. This is the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast and these are our stories.
Welcome to the Fee-for-Service Dentist Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spirit. Today I have a really interesting guest with a phenomenal business model that I think is starting to really take hold of a lot of different parts of the United States, and it's only going to get bigger. It's you may have heard of it. I know Dan Allman I reached out to, and I know that he actually uses it. It's a product called Cloud Dentistry. It's a really innovative way to staff your office, hire people, and it's very user-friendly, and it's really, I don't want to say invading, but it's really got a nice market share in a lot of different places. And we're going to talk to the CEO and founder. His name is Trey Tepichin. He's a phenomenal, fascinating guy. But let me give you I'll give you the 5-cent approach to his bio, which he sent me, because he can shorten it and he can lengthen it, but he gave me the short one. So he is a co-founder, CEO of Cloud Dentistry. It's a web and app-based marketplace that lets dentist offices message and book dental staff on demand. That's right, book dental staff on demand. It's a pretty cool concept. A graduate of Harvard Law School and Duke University. Now, I already warned him the whole Duke thing. I'm going to have a problem. We probably won't we'll bring it up, but I'm as a Syracuse guy, and now Duke is kind of little bit of our basketball enemy. He's familiar with that because he knows the wars they've had with North Carolina. So we will probably touch upon that. He has practiced as an attorney for nearly 10 years and formerly taught economics at Harvard. This is one bright dude, guys and gals. So please welcome Trey Tepichin. Trey, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Thank you, Dr. Sparrow, for having me today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so excited. When I first heard your presentation at the Catapult meeting, what was it, 8 months ago?
Yeah, that
Something like
was spring of this year. Time flies
Yeah.
by.
I was like, oh man, that's a really innovative solution, right?
The future of fee-for-service dentistry is based in membership patients. If you need help starting your membership plan, or if your plan is too big for your team to manage, visit dentalmembershipdirect.com to set up your free membership growth solution demo with our team.
And you talked about it, so I got a little bit of your background, so we're going to go through it because I think it's fascinating. Anytime that we have like a show, it's a sponsor, whatever, a person of like your nature, I want to know where you came from, how you created, or how your mind thinks, because I'm going to learn something, right? And how you got into this whole concept. So
Right.
let's start. Where'd you grow up? Tell us some of your background, please.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, never in a million years that I think that I would end up in the dental space, honestly. When you hear my background, you're like, how did he get here? And it is an odd kind of circuitous story. So I was born in Mexico City. I grew up there the first 14 years of my life. My dad is Mexican, my mom's American, so I kind of grew up bilingual, bicultural. And then when I was 14, I moved to Texas, where I finished high school, and then I slowly migrated north from there. So I did my undergrad work. We won't say the name.
Okay, that's
Biology,
okay. You
economics.
got clearance.
And then kept migrating north.
Decades.
It ended up going to Harvard for law school. And I was, a practicing an attorney for many years. And again, I had no idea that I was going to end up in the dental space. But life takes you in crazy ways.
What's your mom and dad? What's their background? What's their, you know?
Yeah. So my dad, he owns a steel fabrication company in Mexico City. And that was part of the inspiration for wanting to get into some kind of entrepreneurial thing. I saw his entrepreneurial spirit growing up, right? He built a business with his dad basically from scratch, and it became a very successful company in Mexico. So I wanted to mimic that. Like as a lawyer, I was trading my time for money in a 1-to-1 ratio. Like it wasn't super scalable. And so I wanted
Right.
something different than that. And my mom, she's a UT graduate, and she did a phenomenal job raising 3 boys. I don't know how she did it and how she survived. I have 2 younger siblings. And we gave her a rough time of it, but she did it amazing. I credit her for kind of all of our wisdom and learnings.
Okay. So 14 years in Mexico City. Talk about what it was like growing up in that environment.
Oh wow, it's very very different. I remember the food. It was very. I miss it when I come up here. It's very hard to find good Mexican food.
Everybody
That
says that.
said,
Knows good Mexican food.
yeah. That said, the Tex-Mex food here, I know it's like its own genre, but as someone from Mexico, all the Mexicans I know love coming for the Tex-Mex because it's very different from what we have in Mexico. So it's like, oh, this is different. This is neat. This is delicious. I grew up in went to school in a bilingual school. It was half of the day in English, half of the day in Spanish.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so it was really nice. I enjoyed it a lot, but I feel like when I moved to the States, I was just shocked at kind of the vast difference in standard of living. Like the schools were, even though I went to one of the nicest schools in Mexico, the schools in the U.S. were pristine by my standards. I was like, oh my goodness, and all the kids were underappreciative of what they had and the opportunities. I was like, oh my, this is amazing. I feel so grateful to be here, getting to take advantage of some of these great resources.
Okay, so the school system, the bilingual thing is just it really is fascinates me. When you were growing up, would you consider you were raised Mexican, or would you consider you were raised American? How like was Spanish spoken in the house? Talk a little bit about that. Like, what was your real
Yeah,
growing
it's
up
so
environment?
interesting because you end up associating language and pieces of culture as well with different people. And so you almost change. I mean, you do change your language. Like there are some people, like my father, I only speak to him in Spanish. and it feels very awkward to speak to him in English. Like I associate him in my mind with Spanish, and that's just the way it is. And he can speak English. We could speak in English, but we don't. And then with my mom, it's the same way. She learned Spanish and she's perfectly fluent. She's a blonde hair, blue-eyed woman. You would never guess that she speaks Spanish. So sometimes she overhears people talking in Spanish and gets snippets of conversations she's not supposed to hear because she speaks it perfectly.
That's a nice asset.
But even though she speaks it so well, I would never speak Spanish to my mom unless I was trying to keep a secret from someone, right? It just feels awkward to speak Spanish to her. So I really did grow up kind of straddling the fence in a way. It was bicultural, bilingual, and it really depended on, who I was interacting with.
Wow. So if I show you like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does the word come up in Spanish first for you, or does the word come up in English for you first?
Well, right now I'm in English mode, and we're speaking in English, and most of it comes up in English.
That's cool.
Every now and then there'll be a word. It's hard for me to think of one. It just comes up randomly in conversation where there's a word for which there's a Spanish word, but there's no English equivalent. And then that's when the Spanish word pops into my head. I'm like, oh, wait, but what's the English word? And there is no English word sometimes.
How about like the slang expressions, right? Like that would drive my mother-in-law. She never ever let on because she would just smile and giggle, and I would say things, that were like, it's as cold as X, or that makes as much sense as blah. And she would just smile, and then finally, I was like about 10 years in, and I was like, she has no idea what I'm saying,
right? Yeah,
that's got to be a part of the whole mix too, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some cultural slang and words that just don't translate. I was just in Houston visiting my parents this last week, and my dad was talking about que debo el remojo, which means there's no English translation for it, but it means whenever you buy something nice for yourself, you owe other people around you a little taste of it, right? But I don't know what there's no English word for it. Like in Spanish it's remojo, but I don't know what the English word for it is.
Well, in the Italian culture, right? In like if you watch The Sopranos or you know what I mean? Like you got to give a little bit to the butt, you got to pay it up, right?
Exactly.
Give them a little taste.
I feel like there should be a word for that, but I don't know what it is in English, at least.
Oh my goodness! So when you were 14, what was the impetus to move? Why change countries? Why change? You know what I mean? What was that move? What was that for?
Yeah, well, I think my parents really wanted me to have more opportunities. I think when you think about kind of the educational system in the United States and the business world and everything that's in front of you, everyone knows that the United States is where you go for maximizing your opportunities. And we're fortunate enough that we had the resources to make that happen. The crime was also getting very bad in Mexico at the time. So this was back in like 1994. This was right after the peso was devalued. And so when the peso was devalued, it caused kind of economic calamity down there. And the crime rates just skyrocketed. And there were lots of kidnappings happening. We knew people, close friends of ours who had their children kidnapped. And they were kind of like these express kidnappings where they call them express because there's a 24-hour turnaround. They're not demanding a huge amount of ransom. You pay a modest amount of money and you get your kid back quickly. And this is like done. Express kidnapping. Still very scary.
Never heard of that. Wow.
Yeah, but they were happening frequently, and so
that was very real. That wasn't a threat. That was
real. That was real,
right?
That was real, and
like it was like you knew, like you said, you knew people,
right? We knew people to whom it had happened. Yeah, and it's very surreal because I mean, people up here, when I tell them this, they think, oh, then Trey must have been living like this palatial life. He must have been in a very wealthy family. But the reality is it wasn't that big of a deal. Pretty much everyone in my school, we had drivers / bodyguards that would kind of take us around everywhere. And they were just on the payroll. And, because of the kind of the vast labor cost differential, you could do that in Mexico, even if you weren't incredibly well off. If you were, middle upper class,
right.
You'd have people like that kind of watching over you because it was pretty dangerous.
Did your dad bring his business this way when he moved?
He didn't. So he stayed in Mexico City and kept running the business, and he would kind of commute to the U.S. to visit us, frequently. Like every month, he'd come up and visit. But he had to kind of keep his business running in Mexico.
Right.
Now that it's further along, he has moved full time to Houston, Texas, and runs it remotely at this point.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's still keeping it going in the same area. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So when you go to high school, obviously it's not an acclimation situation because English is a I'm going to call you truly bilingual. I think you have two first languages. I find a lot of times with people bilingual, they have a first language and then they're very good at their second language. It
Mhm.
sounds like you really truly grew up with two first languages, which is amazing. Um, Now you're in the Texas school system, and you said first, your impressions is pristine. What were you thinking? 14, so you're probably ninth grade, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yep, ninth grade, exactly.
So what were you thinking? Like,
It was
what are you going to
10th
do?
grade.
Were you thinking, well, just going to graduate high school, or did you already have, aspirations and thoughts beyond? What was your thoughts at that point?
Yeah, so it was actually 10th grade, and I think it was I had just finished having a big wake up call because growing up, I was a very mediocre student. All through elementary school, middle school, it was like C's and D's, and I would even get like bad grades, and I would hide them from my parents. I'd drop it under the furniture
Yeah,
somewhere, so they
yeah.
wouldn't see it. Um, because in my mind, I was very complacent. I saw my father; he had a great business. I figured, I can go work for my dad's business. I don't need to kind of really apply myself. But then when the economic collapse happened in '94, and I saw my parents struggling, it was a wake up call to me. And then we moved to the US, and they said, we're giving you this opportunity. And it really hit home to me. I said, I have to take advantage of this. And so
You're the oldest of the three?
I am, I am. Yeah. And so I just buckled down. I remember when I moved up, there's some cultural shock, but not too much. A lot of the kids in Mexico were foreign U.S. students, that we had a lot of U.S. students in my school in Mexico. But more than anything else, it was just for me. I was very, very, very studious all through high school. I wanted to make sure that I, did right by my family.
So you did a 180 academically, right?
Academically, I did pretty much a 180. If you look at my transcripts, it was
Okay.
D's and D's, and
But,
then pretty much straight A's.
but that's a college admissions dream right there. As someone who has never lived to any potential and all of a sudden realizes, hey, I was underperforming and I'm well capable of more. And
Right.
then you prove it, right? So now I got to ask about Duke. Now, why Duke, man? You're in Texas. You didn't think of UT. I mean, A&M, none of those schools. I mean,
Yeah, all great schools, all great schools. At the time, I remember going and buying the U.S. News World Report, whatever they call it, ranking. All the kids used to buy that. We went to go to Barnes and Noble, buy the report that ranked all the universities,
Right.
and I wanted to be the best, right? And so I was looking at Harvard initially. I was like, Harvard's ranked number one. I'm going to go to Harvard. And then I remember doing a summer program there. Well, first I visited during the winter months, and it was horrendously cold, so that was already a turnoff because I wasn't used to the cold. And then I did a summer program there as well, and I just really wasn't feeling good. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. It doesn't.
Okay.
I don't like the vibe. I don't like the way the city feels. It's just very different. So I kind of started going down the list, and Duke at the time was ranked. I think it was ranked number 3, and I visited Duke, and I immediately fell in love with the campus. It was just it reminded me
It's
a
a
lot.
cool vibe, though.
It's a
Duke
very cool
campus is a
vibe.
cool
It
vibe.
reminded me of this, it had still had a southern flavor to it. It didn't have kind of that
Yeah.
northeastern feel that Harvard had. And so it felt a little bit more at home for me. It wasn't too much of a change. And I said, look, and it has 4 seasons. It's not horrendously cold. And so I kind of just landed there. It was a good combination of um, good culture, good city, and strong academics. And so it took the day for me.
Any trouble getting in with grades or SATs or anything? Or
Oh, I mean, I got in on early admissions, so
no, that's no problem
I
at
would
all.
like to
You
think
got
I would like to
early
think I did.
admission.
I had decent grades. I did well on my SATs and had good extracurriculars and stuff. So um, I like to think it was
Early,
a it was
admission. That's cool. Okay, so you're at Duke. Now what? Now is it just let's take a liberal arts, kind of flavor, but obviously you go into teaching economics at Harvard Law.
Right.
What what was fancy? Like what was your fancy at that point when you
Yeah.
were in
So,
school?
so when I was at Duke, I was on the pre-med path. I thought I was going to be a
I'm
doctor.
going to talk to you in the dentistry, but go ahead. Pre-med.
And so I majored in biology and economics, did a double major with a minor in chemistry.
Oh, you're with some pretty
Um,
bright people.
I took the MCATs. I prepared for them. I did well on the MCATs, and I was writing my college, or not my college, my med school admissions essay, right, for applying. I got to the point of applying, and they were asking me why I wanted to be a doctor, and I had never done any like serious introspection up to that point, and I couldn't find a compelling reason to put down on that piece of paper that was going to mean anything to the admissions officer. So it gave me pause. It gave me pause, and I started kind of reevaluating my priorities and whether or not I really wanted to be a doctor. And after soul searching, talking to friends, I was like, I don't think I'm going into it for the right reasons, right? And so I pivoted, and I said, well, let's go the other well-trod path, which is the legal path. So I ended up being a lawyer. Applied to law school, got into Harvard, and that kind of sealed the deal for me. I said, okay, I got into Harvard, can't turn this down. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. So I'm going to the Northeast, and I'm going to buy a jacket. I'm going to weather the cold, and we're going to make this happen.
Come on, you make it sound like Siberia. Come on, man. I live in upstate New York, so I'm
talking
starting to take some
to a
of this
Southern kid
personal
here.
now, man. So, did you apply to Duke Law School by any chance?
I did not. No,
Huh.
I just applied to Harvard, actually, surprisingly.
So you prepare for your MCATs, which is grueling, and then you got to prepare for your LSATs, right?
The LSATs were a lot easier. Yeah, the MCATs,
Okay.
that's
Let me say,
another.
folks, you heard it here. He flat out admitted it.
I admit it.
LSATs were easier than what we go through in the DATs and the MCATs. All right.
Absolutely.
We all thought that, but you proved it. Okay. All right. So you're in law school. Now let's talk what you're thinking. Because now you said you didn't do any introspection when you thought about medicine. Now you had to do a little bit. Now you're in. Now you're in your career path much deeper.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought process now in law school?
So I was loving law school. It felt like an amazing fit for me. Intellectually, in terms of the subject matter, I really enjoyed, arguing cases, reading about previously decided cases, doing research. I enjoyed writing. I got really very, very good at writing as well. So I was loving it. And then we had the summer internship programs, which really sealed the deal for me because that's where the law firms go and they hire summer interns from these law schools to work for the summer. And you don't do any work. You just go and they want to dine you and they pay you. They pay you too. So I was like, oh my goodness, like I picked the right profession, clearly. So I was sold. And then I graduated law school. Well, while I was in law school, because I did have a passion for economics and teaching. They had an opening to teach the undergraduate economics, the micro and macro economics. And I applied for that and they interviewed me.
Wait a second. You taught undergrad Harvard economics while you're in law school?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
So this is an achiever. Okay. You're an achiever. We've established that. Okay. All right.
To this day, I love economics. It's a whole different way of thinking and looking at the world. It's not just about numbers and business. It really gives you a different mindset of, just a different analytical framework, I would say.
My son loves Thomas Sowell. You like him?
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah.
All right.
Thomas
Sorry, off topic. Keep going.
Yeah.
So you have this
that's a deep rabbit hole we could go down.
but let's talk about this, right? So economics you're teaching and you have a vast interest. You have a father who taught you a little bit of the entrepreneurial part. So you can kind of see where the ingredients to the stew are coming together here, right?
Absolutely.
So what's your first, I know you went, you did the cushy internships and everybody does that because they want you to think you don't have to work. And then when they hire you as an associate, they work your ass off. So what did you do when you graduated law school?
So when I first graduated, I went to work for one of the law firms here in Boston called Ropes and Gray, one of the top law firms in the nation. And I was shocked because, to your point, it didn't match the summer internship experience at all.
Not even close. Yeah.
And the very first assignment that I had, like I think the first 6 months of working at Ropes and Gray, they stuck me in a room and I just did nothing but review documents and sort them into piles, basically. Like, this is a privileged document. This is a document that's important to the case, that's responsive to a discovery request. And this is a document that we can just, put to the side because it's not relevant.
Okay.
It was grunt work, right? But everyone has to pay their dues. But for me, I was shocked because I was like, oh my goodness. So all this education, all this training, and now here I am just shuffling paper and they're paying me gobs of money to do it too. Interesting model, to say the least. And then I, progressed from there. I mean, obviously everyone has to, like I said, pay their dues. Ended up being on some very interesting, high profile cases that I very much enjoyed. I got to argue cases in court as well. Kind of got the entire flavor of being I was a commercial litigator. So I got the entire flavor of being a commercial litigator and really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. But I think the thing for me that was a little bit of a wake up call, was that the business model was just incompatible with my fundamental drivers. Like when I think about what drives me, I'm a very efficiency-minded person. I want to find the shortest line from point A to point B. I don't necessarily work for money. I work more for the time that work can get me, free time. And so for my family, for my kids, whatever. And in the legal world, it's all based on billable hours. So if I were very, very efficient and were able to do a project that might have taken a colleague of mine 30 hours to do, but I can do it in 10, that 20-hour differential doesn't give me any extra credit. The fact that I was able to do it quickly, they just say, "I'll find another 20 hours to do it."
It actually works against you.
It actually works against me. Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm just fatigued. I'm working and I'm just spinning. I'm like a hamster on the hamster wheel. And so I always have my ear to the ground looking for something different, something that would match kind of my value system a little bit better in terms of the business model. And so it lends itself naturally to entrepreneurism. It really does. And then I just kind of stumbled upon this opportunity in dentistry.
Well, I'll tell you what, you think about dentistry, right? We have a fee schedule. And my wife asked me this today because we have a new associate in our practice. And she was like, do you charge more when you place an implant versus your associate? I said, no, why? They get the same product. Mm-hmm. So while it may take less time with myself because I've done more, I mean, like I may be more efficient in the delivery portion of it,
right.
Product's still the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that model, what you just described is almost like you got a cab running, and if I can take the route that takes me 2 hours to get you from point A to point B, I get paid more, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if I can figure out a way to get you there in, half the amount of time,
right?
And I don't that actually costs me money.
You get paid less.
You're almost motivated to be inefficient, mm-hmm. Right? Because every email or every text I get, every like my buddies, a couple of buddies that are lawyers, are like, hold on, I got to pay some bills. And they answered 3 texts, and they got just made X amount of dollars.
Right.
Every text is a 15-minute billable hour.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. So, I mean, can you imagine? Like, the meter starts when I walk in the room. No. We get kind of paid per service. But anyway, So keep going now. So how did you come up, or how did you combine this concept of business efficiencies, economics, right? And then this legal milieu that you
I don't think they naturally combine with each other. I think that it was more like my brain got exercised in many different ways. It's like this thing, you go to the gym, you do bench press. You're never going to use those muscles, like that exact movement in your life, but you're just improving your general like fitness.
Right.
I think I had the tools necessary to jump into almost anything if I really, put my mind to it. And then I just happened to stumble upon this opportunity. I was having dinner with a friend of mine, an old high school friend. I hadn't seen him in probably 10 years. His name is Reza. And Reza and I used to be best friends back in high school, but we kind of lost touch with college and law school. He went to dental school, so he was a dentist.
Was he a
And so
general dentist by chance?
he's a general dentist. And
Okay.
so we're catching up over dinner. And we get into this friendly chest bumping match, arguing about who had a tougher job. Was it tougher being a lawyer or tougher being a dentist?
Just bumping. I love it.
And he, dentists, I have to concede to my friend Reza, dentists have a very difficult job. I mean, you have to be both clinicians, so you're in patients' mouths for a lot of the day. And then it's this odd situation where not only are you the clinician, but you're also the operator. You also have to run your business. And most of the time, if you're the business operator, you're not the person that's actually doing the product, right? And so you're both clinician and business operator. And then to add insult to injury, he's telling me about how hard it was to find staff and how unreliable the staff was. Mainly because it's no fault to the staff, but just the demographics lend themselves to that. He told me that over 50% of the dental professionals are either part-time or temporary workers. And this was pre-COVID. And so even pre-COVID, it was already a very difficult problem for him. And he told me that in any given month, he was going to be short-staffed 4 to 5 days out of the month, and that he was going to have to either cancel patients and lose thousands of dollars in production or scramble to try to find a replacement. And so I asked him, what do you do? Like, where do you look to find these replacements? Because in my mind, I'm thinking this can't be that big of a problem. He's just trying to make it sound like he's just trying to play his little violin.
He's crying in his beer.
Yeah. And so he tells me, and they say, Trey, like there's no place out there that aggregates them well. Like I'm literally looking at Craigslist. I'm looking at Indeed.
Yep.
I'm using temp agencies. And all those models have their problems. Like the job boards, they boast about having hundreds of thousands or millions of resumes, but the reality is they're all stale. It's like sending messages into a black hole. You very rarely get responses. And then if you do get someone to respond to and agree to come in to help you in your office, we have data on this. About 40% of the time when someone's booked through a job board, about 40% of the time, they will just ghost you. So you think they're going to come in and help you for the day. And then not only do they not show up, they don't even give you the courtesy of a call. I don't know what happened. Like, 10 years ago, if I couldn't make it to something, I'd at least make up an excuse, right? I say my car had trouble or my kids or something. But now
your grandmother died for the 15th time.
Right. But now you don't even get the courtesy of a response. You just get ghosted. And so that was the job boards. And then with the temp agencies, the people would show up, but it would cost Reza an arm and a leg. They were charging him 30% markups on the daily rates. Right. And if he found someone through the temp agency that he wanted to hire full time, they charge him $10,000 to buy out that contract. So yeah, there was just no good solution. And that's when, the wheels in our head started turning. We're like, this doesn't make any sense, right? Like this is the era of the sharing economy, internet marketplaces. If I needed a nanny, I could go to care.com and have a nanny here tonight. If I needed someone to walk a dog, I could go download a WAG app. You need something delivered, you download the Instacart app. This model exists in countless other verticals. Why does it not exist in dentistry? And it was that epiphany, that moment, when I said, look, this is too good of an opportunity to pass up. Like I'm done being a lawyer. I will go into this full time. Like how often do you find an industry, a large, robust industry that is in desperate need of a technology that has been proven out in countless other verticals? It almost never happens. And so I said, I'm in. So we cobbled together our money. Reza puts him in. I put him in. He brought in one of his dentist colleagues as well. And we gave it a go.
So that was the birth of cloud dentistry?
That was the birth of cloud dentistry. Yeah, I think it was
Did
more.
You grab the name right away?
So I remember, I wish, in hindsight, I think we could have maybe spent more time thinking of the name, but I like it now. But we just, after that dinner conversation, then we met with TJ, his other dentist partner. We met in a coffee shop. We just sat down and spent 15, 20 minutes thinking of a name. We said cloud dentistry, sounds good. Let's move on to the next topic, because we were just about go. Let's bring this to market. Yeah. Let's develop, put the team together. So we didn't think too much of the name. But now it's become kind of ubiquitous and well known. So it's good.
So see, I'm a Shark Tank fan, right? So right now you've hit some major buttons for most of the people that I've watched on the Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. O'Leary, Pershevek, Cuban, Lori, and Barbara, right? And Damon. You're all in, okay? and you're looking at a solution to a problem. It's a well-known problem, it's well-defined, and it's funny that you started this before the pandemic, because after the pandemic, there's problems that I've never experienced that we experience almost on a routine basis. Like you said, 4 to 5 days a month, we're probably short-staffed.
Yep.
At some point, well, more than that, at least more than that. So 4 days is one day a week. We're probably, let's say if two, maybe it would be safe to say 2 of those 5 days we have.
Right.
And legitimate, right? My kid's sick. I got to stay home. I got to, always legit. And then some maybe not, but most of them are. And because we value family, we just make it work, but it does tax a lot of the other folks in the office. So,
Right.
but
Right.
you've hit some major things. How did you, I mean, what inspired you to go all in, right? Like you're all in on this.
Yeah, when I say all in, it really was all in. I put, whatever money I had in my checking account went into it, and then liquidated my 401k, put that in. I said, look, we got to do this.
Whoa, Dave Ramsey wouldn't be happy with you, but that's okay.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey would not approve. I threw caution to the wind, and again, I think it was more, honestly, in hindsight, I think it was more naivete than courage. I can act like, oh, I was a hero, I was very courageous, but the truth is, I was very naive. As to kind of what all it would entail to actually get it off the ground. In my mind, I thought we'll put the team together. I know a good web developer. He'll develop the platform. We'll get it built out, and then we'll start emailing people. We'll do text campaigns. We'll get people onto the platform, and it'll start making money for us. Could not be further from the truth, right? Getting the platform developed and launching it was just barely scratching the surface, kind of the alpha version of the product that we launched with. And there were a lot more hurdles, a lot more obstacles than I ever could have imagined. And that's why I say it was more naivete than courage. Because if someone gave me a crystal ball and said, these are all the things you're going to have to surmount, I might have said, I don't know if I want to risk it all for this. It seemed
nobody's path to success is not rocky. I mean,
right.
Nobody that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're all in, right? When you burn the boats, when you're all in, there's no safety net. You're going to figure it out.
Right.
But what's interesting is at no point in your conversation about your background or history do you come across as a major risk taker, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my perception. Like you seem, play this, I did this, very calculated. I thought this through. Okay, I looked at the schools, I selected, nothing speaks to really what your next step was, but you were sold on this whole process. So talk about when you started the company. What year was that?
So the company, I guess, was technically founded in 2015, but we didn't launch until like 2016, 2017.
2016, 2017. So pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic.
Okay. So talk about what it looked like and what you were seeing, because I know it's been massive growth and it's flying, but talk a little bit about your plan.
Yeah, so when we first launched the platform, I saw videos of kind of what the platform looked like initially. In hindsight, it was embarrassing. I think it was Reid Hoffman,
let's start somewhere.
LinkedIn guy. He said, "Look, unless you look back and are a little bit embarrassed about the product you launched with, then you launched too late." That's in my defense, the product looked like crap, but we had to launch with something. And I remember it was just very arduous to get the first. I remember sitting at the admin panel where I could see the signups coming in, waiting for the signups to come in. I bought some email lists. I had did some text campaigns. I was like, okay, let's see the signups come in, and it was crickets. It was crickets, and that was very demoralizing for me because like I said, I was all in. I'm like, oh shoot, what have I done? Nothing's happening. We built this thing, and no one is signing up. And so I remember literally going onto LinkedIn, connecting with dentists, connecting with dental hygienists, connecting with dental assistants, and asking them for their input. I said, look, I built this product. I'd love to have your input. Can I treat you to coffee? And let's talk. I would meet hygienists one-on-one, dental assistants one-on-one at Starbucks, right there in Houston on Westheimer near the Galleria. And we
You know what? I know exactly where that is.
yeah, yeah, it's a 24-hour Starbucks. It doesn't ever close. And so I meet with these people, and they'd give me feedback on the platform, and then I'd ask them to create their profile because it was free to create your profile. And then later in the day, I'd meet with an office and say, hey, I just onboarded this great hygienist. You need a hygienist. I could introduce you to the hygienist or him or her, but I'd rather you create your profile on Cloud Dentistry and book the hygienist through Cloud Dentistry so we can like get things moving and kind of like grease the wheels, so to speak. And so it was very arduous. It took us over a year to get to our first 100 clients. First
But
100
talk about
paid.
boots on the ground. That's boots on the ground. That's making, so you're talking technology, but when it comes right down to it, it's a people to people connection.
At the beginning, when I first launched the platform and before we had worked out all the wrinkles and really leveraged the full power of the platform, it was very much of a Wizard of Oz situation. Like here's the here's the curtain of the platform, and here's me behind the scenes, pulling the strings. I was doing everything from sales to customer service. I was calling hygienists in the morning to remind them to show up to their appointments.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing everything. And it was a very iterative approach. And so but I think because we launched with that and because we were very much about just receiving feedback, testing it out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then iterating month after month after month, that's how we ended up with a product like Cloud Dentistry where it is today, where, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's turnkey. I don't lift a finger. No one on my team lifts a finger for the matches. The matches happen on their own. Everything's seamless, frictionless. But you don't just magically appear there from day one. There's too many variables to consider.
You see the parallels to starting a dental practice?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Well, think about it, right? Let's say I start a practice. I build this great office. I have all this technology. I have all this knowledge and wisdom. And and I hang a shingle and I do whatever I think I can to advertise. And then I sit by the phone and nobody calls, or I sit by the computer and nobody schedules.
Right.
Right. Now, people who are all in, like a Howard Ferran, he's out knocking on doors in neighborhoods, meeting people, greeting people, signing them, getting them to make appointments. In your case, getting people to start using your platform, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's eerily similar in my mind. And now typically if you have a successful practice, you should. If you take good care of people, they should help send more of those people. And you know what I mean? It's the well stays replenished,
Right.
So,
right.
So at the end of the first year, where were you? Were you still in despair? At what point did you say this might work?
At the end of the first year, I never lost hope. I always knew that it would work. It was just taking longer than I thought it would. And so at the end of the first year, when we got the first 100 paying offices onto the platform, subscribe to the platform, it seemed like a Herculean task. And I was like, man, like, how are we ever going to get to 500 offices, much less 1,000 offices? Like, that seems completely unachievable. But it's just, you keep fixing details, keep iterating the product, keep iterating your marketing approach, hiring and surrounding yourself with the best people. That was another thing. I've been very, very fortunate in terms of the people that work with Cloud Dentistry, work with me on Cloud Dentistry. I don't call them employees; they're my colleagues, and they're all phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And they live and breathe this company the same way I do, and that's the kind of person that you need. And so, just chipping away at it, we finally got to the point where we went from 100 to 200 offices, then we went to 800, then we went to 2,000, and now we're almost to 5,000 offices. And it's like that whole year to get 100 clients, now we do that in half a month. And it's like, it's mind-blowing to me to see kind of how far it's come.
That's awesome. I mean, so and again, you're not necessarily reinventing, but you're constantly tweaking, right? Like great basketball coaches are always getting, how do I do this? How can I improve this? We played good, but how can we play better, right? I mean, that's the way the brain works on people who are driven like in that capacity. So
absolutely. One of the biggest problems of me. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to explain it again now because I just want to make sure it's clear to folks listening to. So a subscription model is the office signs up and pays a subscription fee, right? the potential employees create profiles, so they essentially sign up and they don't pay anything on that end.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. For people who are listening to this, if they visualize LinkedIn, right, that's kind of the closest thing I could think of for a visual aid. Visualize LinkedIn with a lot of profiles, and it's free for you to create your account on LinkedIn and peruse all of the candidates on LinkedIn.
So
Same
say
thing
that
with
one more time, what you just said. It's free to do what?
free to peruse, free to look
But,
at all the candidates on Cloud Industry.
but you
So
said free
all
to make your profile.
and free for professionals to create their profiles as well. So
Correct.
there's
So you can
literally
create your own
no.
profile.
Yep.
I mean, and people listen, you can go create your own profile, costs you zero,
Yep.
and you can start to look. And when you see it in real time, because I did this with Trey a couple days ago, I was like, excuse me? It was like it was to the minute. It wasn't like checked out. This person was on right as we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of select or pick your markets, but keep going. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm kind of jazzed about it. I think it's the coolest thing going.
Yeah, so
But
we basically, completely turned the staffing model upside down. And so it's free to look. We've removed all the friction to getting into this network. You can look at profiles, you can see all of the users' stats, all of their user reviews. So other users can leave reviews for these professionals as well. And you can read all of those reviews for free. All of that's
okay, so when you say user, so I'm my profile on, I'm a paid subscriber.
right,
I hire a hygienist for a day,
right.
right? She has a rating, like you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? I rate them.
Right. So
Okay.
at the end of every assignment, the dental office is given the chance to rate the professionals that they work with on Cloud Dentistry.
Okay.
And you rate them from 1 star to 5 star, and you can also leave written reviews for them as well. And so what that does is as Cloud Dentistry gets more and more utilization, the database itself becomes more and more valuable and powerful. And it also is very, very valuable real estate for the dental professionals because now they have it's kind of like LinkedIn on steroids, right? Like they have living, breathing profiles that track all of their work history, track all of their user reviews, track their no-show rates. Like we will suspend users for no-showing. So that 40% ghosting rate that you get on
Right.
other
I was just gonna say, I remember everybody he talked about people that just they don't even show they ghost you.
yeah,
Now there's a scorecard,
there's a scorecard. And so because of that,
visible scorecard.
our no-show rate is less than 1%, 1%. So people, the dentists book with impunity and they book with confidence on the site. And it really is a complete paradigm shift because dental offices are used to paying 30% markups on every single booking that they do. They're used to paying $10,000 to buy out the candidates. And on our site, it's like iTunes. You pay one flat fee with iTunes and you can listen to as many songs as you want. If you love a song and want to add that song to your playlist, Apple doesn't charge you more for that. You just add the song to your playlist and no charge. Same concept here. You pay a flat subscription fee. You can try out 10 hygienists over the course of the month, 5 dental assistants, hire a dental assistant full time because that was the one you wanted, and hire like whichever hygienist fits your culture the best, hire that one full time. You don't owe a penny more to Cloud Dentistry. There's no charge.
Say that just one more time because that's what
Yeah, it's almost too good to be true.
yeah,
You pay
yeah,
one
because
flat
that's
subscription
not the
fee.
model. That's
It's
not
not
the
the
model
model.
that you're dealing with agencies, headhunters, or whatever
Right,
that
right,
that
right.
that may with. So
We
go ahead.
we don't police our users. That's one of the things that dentists are always they're skeptical about it. They're like, wait, what's the catch? I'm like, there's no catch. We don't police our users. We tell them upfront, try out 5 hygienists, no fee for every time you book one. Book as many as you want. And then when you find the one that you love and want to hire him or her full time, do so. Like we're not going to stand in the way of that. We want you to be successful. There's no buyout fees.
So if I hire, so I'm going to walk through this scenario, right? And you correct me because I will probably screw it up. So I have a hygienist that I have worked with for the last 3 Fridays this month. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
she's filled in. We've hired her. Her profile, her skills, her skill set matches. She comes in culturally. It's a decent fit. We're gonna 5 star rating. We love her, etc. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, him or her. I don't want to make this
Yeah.
the
Well,
gender.
98% of the industry is female. So I get what you're saying.
So I know, but I don't want to get accused of that. So we bring that hygienist in three uh, Fridays, we'll say, over a 6 week period, and we're like, we love this person, we want to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
We just go ahead and we talk directly to that person, so we're not going behind anybody's back. There's no back door. Oh, wait a second, we get a finder's fee or we get a kick on this and whatever, and we say, listen, Kyle, right? Because that could be either gender, right?
There we go.
Kyle, we'd like to hire you. We're going to hire you. Here's your pay. Here's your benefits. Here's your perks. Here's your office package. And they're like, great, love to do it. Right.
Exactly.
Now they can still keep their profile and still work, in this scenario, but if we hire them full time, hopefully we're going to, have that relationship, and maybe you might lose a high end user, a person that uses it often, but like you said, that person is successful, and that's a feather in cloud dentistry cap to satisfy that need on both sides, the temp and then the permanent.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the, not just the dentists, but also the hygienists and the dental assistants. That's why they flock to cloud dentistry, and why we've done such a good job of kind of creating this massive database of users that's available for everybody, because the dental hygienists, the dental assistants truly believe in our mission, right? That we're empowering them to find their dream office. And we're not saddling them with big placement fees and big buyout fees. And so we say, look, all the money that the temp agency is charging, that's money that either the office could have saved or you could be making, right? Like there's a middleman in it. And that middleman's taking a big chunk of it. The office should be paying less and the professional should be making more. And with cloud dentistry, that becomes reality because we cut out that middleman.
Well, that's a neat, is that, by the way, I mean, that's a great slogan. Find your dream office for the working.
I like that.
Yeah. But on our side, right? Find your dream employee.
Right. Absolutely.
To me, that's a win-win. Right. Because, you've tasted the pie before you ate it or before you ordered it. You had a sample, or like you go to a gelato store, they got the little spoons, right? I want to taste the stracciatella, and they give it a bit like, oh, let me try the vanilla, and you try a couple things. Very similar, right? And there's not. I like the fact that the openness and the thorough description part is out in the open. And there's no like, well, I didn't tell you that, the last 4 places I got thrown out because I stole cotton rolls or whatever the case, right? It's going to show up in the rating somewhere.
Right. Or someone will complain to us and we'll get them off the platform. I mean, we're doing about 13,000 placements every single month. So
13,000 a month, folks.
A month. And so we see a lot of volume. And when you see that much volume, you're going to have a few crazies. But the good news is that we filter out those crazies, so they don't hop around from office to office anymore. We elevate the level of quality in the dental.
There's probably some mechanism that once you've gotten 3 or 4 XYZs, then you know what, the flags raised, etc.
Exactly.
I just love how this foundation started. It's just so similar to a dental practice. Building it, and the relationship portion. And now you're sort of like, okay, we're going to put you guys together. You guys can work it out. And for a lot of dentists who I think are introverted, especially that, they're not great in that kind of communication, kind of that environment, this answers a lot of things and puts a lot of information in front of people. So they can be introverted, but still do quality research and finding a good fit for each person, for the employee and for the employer.
Absolutely. And it also just helps the dentists get their foot in the door with the dental professionals because, pre-COVID, it was already a tight labor market. Post-COVID, 1 in 5 healthcare workers quit. The female workforce participation rates at a 33-year low. And this is like a 98% female industry. So that it's like a 1-2 punch to kind of constrict the labor supply on the dental professional side. And so dentists need new tools for recruiting and getting in front of dental professionals. And if you're introverted and you need some additional help, this is a way of getting your foot in the door. You can book them for a working interview, have them come in, try them out. It's not just for temping, right? You can try them out, and then now you have that rapport. Now you have that relationship. Now you've worked with them for a day, and then you can decide if you want to hire them full time. But for someone that has a hard time even getting someone to come to the office, this is a game changer. You pay them to come in for a day, and that's your entry ticket. Rather than paying Indeed thousands of dollars for a job posting, just pay a dental hygienist that you think has a good profile to come into your office and see how it goes. See how it goes.
Now, let's go through one other example, if you don't mind, because you brought this up at the very first time I heard you speak. Was if I find out, someone calls up, listen, I got my mother's sick, I'm going to have flu time, I'm not going to be able to come to work tomorrow. So you have like a high priority urgent situation. I'm a cloud dentistry user.
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like from my side?
So most of our bookings happen at least within 24 hours of the need. So most of the bookings are short term. We also have a setting on the professionals' profiles where they can indicate that they are willing to actively monitor and accept bookings, not just within a 24-hour period, but within an immediate notice type period. And so they can set that onto their profile, and then you would see those professionals come up in your search results. So like if it's 8 a.m. and you're short-staffed and you're like, oh man, I need someone now, you can run a search to see who are those super active users that I can send a booking request to and get to come into my office right now. On average, it takes about 10 minutes to get a response, to get a confirmed booking on the platform.
10 minutes.
10 minutes from messaging out and sending the booking request out to getting that confirmed, to getting that confirmation. 10 minutes on average. And then if it's a game changer. And if you're an experienced user on Cloud Dentistry, you can actually add hygienists as favorites. So you can kind of build up your bench. So maybe you like working with Susie, you like working with Kyle, you add them as favorites to your roster. And now you have kind of your standing bench. And then if they favorite you back, now you have a favorite match. And what that does is when you send them a booking request, you don't have to even wait for them to reply anymore. It is instant accepts it and instant confirms. So it's very, very fast once you have them on your favorited as part of your bench.
So let me ask you this. Was that a modification that was a suggestion from somebody?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Everything on the platform, I can't take credit for it. All I can take credit for is treating people to a lot of Starbucks coffees and giving Starbucks a lot of money. And, basically trying my best to give the dental community what they tell me they want.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a different question, but it's directly related. So this business is still in the growth and planning phases. Are you doing any investing? Are you looking for investors in the company? What would you call?
We're kind of in our kind of hyper growth mode. So we're growing at a rate of 100% year over year. Very, very fast growth, very high margins. So it costs very, very little to run the business. Like it's this laptop that I'm speaking to you from. We have no overhead, no real estate, no lease.
You have no Starbucks. You have no
yeah, this is just Starbucks, right? And so we're looking to kind of just explode. I think we're at that inflection point where we've done the work to kind of ensure that we have great product market fit. We have a great monetization strategy, and we have a great go-to-market strategy in place as well. We've proven out that we can launch multiple cities. We have great market penetration all throughout Texas and Denver and some of our hub cities like Houston or Austin. 1 out of every 3 dental offices is currently subscribed to the platform. In Denver, it's 1 out of 4. In Atlanta, it's 1 out of 5. And so we've proven this out. And now we're at that inflection point, and we're going to say, okay, we're at almost 5,000 subscribed dental offices on the platform. We want to go to 20,000. We want to go to 30,000. And just as insurmountable as it seemed to go from the 100 offices that it took me a year to get to 5,000, same story here. We're going to go from 5,000 to 20,000. It's going to be in the blink of an eye. And we're doing fundraising to make that happen. Because I mean, even with the high margins, even with our very aggressive spend on marketing, we want to raise money to kind of make that push, because speed is the name of the game. I view this as a zero or hero play where there's going to be one player that really dominates the space because we aggregate all of the users together. Ultimately, it's a network play, and so we want to move quickly. And so to that end, we are in the middle of a capital raise right now.
Okay, so in the show notes, if you send me, some information, so anybody listening to this that says, "Hey, I want to investigate this," send me whatever the contact or whatever the vehicle would be for them to um, make a connection with you.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. I mean, the timing is perfect in many ways because we do have a larger institutional investor that's coming in that will take most of the round up, but we're reserving some spots for strategic angel investors. We really love the idea of having this be dentist owned. So a lot of our supporters to date have been dentists, and we'd love to kind of keep that trend going. So I appreciate that, Dr. Sparrow.
You got it. Well, Trey, I mean, this is fascinating. I mean, I know that it's a problem. I know it's a real problem. I see it all the time. I all you got to do is open up any dental Facebook group that has anything to do with the business part of the side or the actual practice side of dentistry,
Mm-hmm.
not the clinical, case presentation. These are my implants. This is my overdone. This is not that part, but anybody who's living, breathing in a dental practice. And I know corporates have some serious issues with the same situation, the turnover, and then the opening and fitting and going in and like we've had to cancel because there's no assistant for the doctor, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very real thing. One last thing though, you talked about going in the markets. Let's say like, okay, I'm a small market area, probably
Mm-hmm.
not high on the priority list, right? To get into, but you can grow into it. What would something like that look at? Like, what would that look at for me, number one, in a small market, which is maybe not one of your strong suits, and your pricing structure, does it differ from, you said Atlanta, Denver, and Houston are big markets for you? The subscription, is it the same for your premium subscription, excuse me?
So we're definitely focusing on launching kind of the largest metropolitan areas to start. And it's kind of like Uber, right? If you try to call an Uber and you live in a very rural area, you're going to have a longer wait than if you were in the heart of New York City. And so there is that dynamic. That said, even in newer markets, we're very adaptive in how we offer cloud dentistry in those areas. And so it's a freemium to premium model. So offices can always create their free accounts and look and no charge. And professionals can create free accounts as well. So there's no friction. So if you're in a rural area where we're not very robust yet, go ahead and create your profile. It doesn't hurt anything to create your profile, look
Right.
around. There's only 2 hygienists in our database, but reach out to those too. There's no harm in that. And the good news is that in some markets, it's absolutely free. In other markets that we call kind of our frontier markets, which are markets that we're targeting that are kind of emerging, we treat the dental offices that support us in those markets as partners. So we have something called frontier pricing. It's something that we give to the first handful of dental offices. It varies by city based on the size, but anywhere from 20 to 50 offices might be eligible for frontier pricing. And you get to lock in a $10 per month subscription rate for life. And that's basically our way of saying thank you. Like you're going to get to have all your staffing needs handled at $10 per month for life, whereas the retail rate's more like 100. So you have 90% cost savings as a result of just helping us get one of those early markets off the ground.
Well, I mean, hey, $100 a month, you fill one half a day, and more than pays for itself and what you've
Yeah, I mean
lost.
the average dental office pre-cloud dentistry was spending about $10,000 annually on recruiting costs. At $100 per month, we're about 90% more cost effective.
You don't even want to know what we spent looking for Indeed for hires and
I'm
stuff.
sure. And Indeed's they've raised their prices a lot recently. It's gotten
Sure.
bad. Gone bad.
Yeah, and Indeed, anybody that's worked with them knows, listen, and this is not a bashing thing, but if I have 15 people that we've spoken to, we've made arrangements for an interview, I'll be lucky if 3 actually show up.
True. True.
And these are people we've actually spoken to. It's not just, send a text or an email.
Right. Right.
All right. Well, fascinating. You put all that information, please. So if anybody wants to get involved in investing We will be able to put those two together. Cloud Dentistry, and it's your website, clouddentistry.com, I'm guessing.
Yep, clouddentistry.com. That's it. You got it.
See, I'm a sharp guy. See that?
Yeah.
All right. So I got to ask you one last question. I ask everybody's first trip here. If you could go back in time, anywhere, time or place, with anyone to do anything, where would you go? Who would you go? What would you do? Just give me a little bit about what would you want to
back
experience.
in, back in time within my own life, or I can go back
You can go
way,
back
way
to you can go back to when they built the pyramids,
okay. And I can
or when
bring
dinosaurs were running around. Whatever you want.
do I go back by myself, or can I bring a friend or my brother or something with me?
Yeah, go back. Yeah, roll. First thing that pops in your head. That's always the coolest thing.
I mean, I think dinosaurs. I want to see like living, breathing, walking dinosaurs with my brother. Like he and I remember we played dinosaur toys all the time. So I'd say, let's go back to the Jurassic area. Well, let's bring some equipment with us, make sure we survive. But I think that would be a fascinating adventure to take.
Did you grow up? Did you watch any of the Land Before Time?
Oh yeah. Oh
Oh
yeah.
my goodness, my
Yep.
son. I raised my kids on the three horn.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Classic
So what's
cartoon.
your favorite dinosaur then? I gotta ask you that now. Sorry.
I mean, it's very basic, but it's T-Rex. I mean, that was
T-Rex.
always my go-to toy whenever my brother and I were playing with toys. I try to grab the T-Rex.
There you go, folks. T-Rex with a hell of a lot of intellect right here. All right, Trey, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Folks want to reach out, clouddentistry.com. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. This is a great solution to a massive problem.
Dr. Sparrow, it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Fee for Service Dentist Podcast. If you would like to share your fee for service story, please fill out our contact form at ffsdentistry.com. Also, be sure to join our Fee for Service Dentistry Facebook group. For help starting your dental membership plan, visit dentalmembershipdirect.com and membershipmastercourse.com. Finally, for help with in-house financing, visit dentalfinancingdirect.com. And don't forget, your story is what you make of it. This is your name on the door and your reputation on the line. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.